The Week 17 review episode of the Bears Talk Underground is brought to you by MyBookie. Hey guys, we are up to our neck in bowl season here, and the time is now to get in on the action with MyBookie. Don't be the guy with no rooting interest. Put some money on the table so you got something on the line, even for a game between two teams you don't give a damn about. It's a 41 bowl game season. My God, that's a lot of football games. And we're running down to the very end with the national championship game on January 7th. We got the New Year's Day games coming tomorrow. Plenty of action to be had at MyBookie. And make sure that you're ready for the daily action by signing up with MyBookie today. They pay fast when you win. Ownership really cares about good customer service, and they offer the craziest props. Where you bet is just as important as who you're betting on. And if you want to make money during what's left of bowl season, you got to go to MyBookie. Join now, and MyBookie will offer you a 50% deposit bonus to make sure you have a nice bankroll to play with. Use promo code BEARS25 when you deposit to activate the offer. That's promo code BEARS25. At MyBookie, you play, you win, you get paid. Let's talk about Week 17. This week on the Bears Talk Underground, it was a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation for Nagy and the Bears going into Minnesota on Sunday. Do we play our starters and try to win, or bench them and see what happens? The Bears played to win and went about the business of finishing the year on a 9-1 stretch. Did the Bears polish off the Vikings, or do we have a rematch coming wild card weekend? All of this plus bear up and bear down on the Week 17 review episode of the Bears Talk Underground. For the first time in many, many seasons, this will not be the end of the year for me or for you or for our beloved Chicago Bears. What's going on, everybody? Larry D back for the Week 17 review episode of the Bears Talk Underground, a Victory Monday, our 12th of the year. Man, oh, that is so sweet to say. And as you heard me say in the open, our victory over Minnesota meant the Bears, since being 3-3, went on a 9-1 stretch to close out the year. And the one game we lost to the Giants, we should not have lost that game. So we should be a 13-3 team. Actually, we should probably be like 14-2 or something like that, as far as games that we could probably win if we got a chance to play them over again, kind of thing. But hey, here we are, 12-4, way better than what we thought we were going to do. At the start of the season, even after the Khalil Mack acquisition, we thought that, trying to temper expectations, let's be realistic. This is the first year with a new head coach, all these new players, a new system for Mitch Trubisky to learn. We did not think it would go this well. We just didn't. And not because we didn't think the Bears were capable of it, but because how many times do you see it work out this well in a first-year situation? So, I mean, the Bears have exceeded expectations across the board, and we're not done yet. We are not done yet. And thanks to the beating that we put on the Minnesota Vikings yesterday, the Vikings are done, eliminated from the NFC playoff picture, and in come the Philadelphia Eagles, the defending world champions, who many people are calling the hottest team in the league right now, kind of forgetting that they're playing they have played very well down the stretch. They've won 6 of their last 7, but they are traveling into a place where only one team luckily beat us, and where the other teams were massacred brutally, including the number 2 seed LA Rams, and they're playing against a team that has won 9 of its last 10. So I would argue we're the hotter team, and we're playing in our home stadium. And Matt Nagy today in his press conference challenged the Chicago Bear fans to be themselves this weekend when the Bears and the Eagles play. Basically, we are the main event of the weekend. We're playing the late game on Sunday, starting at like 3:40 or something like that. I believe it's going to be on NBC as well. The primetime game on Saturday is, of course, the freaking Cowboys. So that's where Joe Buck and Troy Aikman will be, thank God. I respect what those guys do. It was nice to see the Bears finally get some love as far because this is the first time all year that Joe Buck has called a game for the Bears. this season, considering the team that we've been all year long. For Week 17 to be the one game that Joe Buck calls for us this year, that's ridiculous. But anyway, so here we are. They're going to be calling the Saturday night game between the Seahawks and the Cowboys, and we're going to be on NBC. So we got to suffer through Collinsworth and Collinsworth we have to suffer through. I love Al Michaels, but will be the NBC late game on Sunday to the main event for the weekend to see if the Bears can earn a trip to Los Angeles for a rematch with the Rams. And believe me, the Rams don't want that. They don't want a rematch with the Bears. They don't want to see us again. Even on their home turf, our defense is still coming with us to Los Angeles, and Jared Goff wants nothing to do with that Bear defense. So it's going to be an interesting week, an interesting weekend. As the tournament begins and the number of teams going forward dwindles, will we be the last man standing? I think we can do it. I really, really think that we can do it. This is probably one of the more wide open postseasons we'll ever see. Usually there's a team that's head and shoulders, a team that's the favorite and everything like that. I bet the betting odds are all over the place in Las Vegas right now. I know that New Orleans is probably the favorite, best team in the league, best record in football, playing at home. They got the home field, so on and so forth. But they've been beaten by the Cowboys. The Bears have beaten the Rams. And, this round robin thing where these teams have kind of taken turns with each other. One has always beaten the other. The Bears have beaten the Seahawks. The Seahawks have beaten the Cowboys before, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, it's really as wide open as it gets. And the AFC is pretty much the same. Granted, the Patriots got in, and they got a first-round bye, but the Chiefs are the number one seed, so the road goes through Arrowhead this year. And the Patriots just seem a bit more vulnerable than they usually do. They usually seem to kind of power their way into the playoffs. They rampage their way through December. They're playing their best football, and then they come in for the bye and so on and so forth. But I just don't feel like the Patriots are that team this year. I mean, the Texans, that's going to be a hell of a team to worry about. The Colts, good God, that won that game last night against Tennessee to get in to the playoffs to play the Texans next weekend. So, I mean, it's going to be a battle. That one kicks off the wild card weekend. And, it's going to be interesting. I can't wait to see what happens this weekend. I already want it to be next weekend so I can get down to it and see how my Bears are going to do against these stinking ass Eagles. So anyway, let's talk about this game. Yesterday, it's funny that, and I'll talk about this as we go along, that we were on the road. It was the one thing that I was worried about. The Bears have not performed well at all on the road this year. And if you look at our road schedule, we had an easy road schedule. We played at Green Bay. That's obviously a tough game, but we started the year off there. And we go at Arizona. We were at Buffalo, at Miami, at Detroit, at not Minnesota, at the Giants. This is not a road schedule that's going to make anybody quake in their boots. And we were 4-3 going into yesterday's game in a place where we historically do not play well. The Bears-Vikings rivalry has been a home-and-home rivalry traditionally. And we did win our home game on Sunday Night Football back in Week 11. And it was supposed to be, if you go by the history and what have you, it was supposed to be Minnesota's turn to win the game and even up the rivalry, play their way into the playoffs. But as we saw, pretty much from the jump, the Bears were having none of that.
Knee-jerk reaction, the first quarter, the Bears and the Vikings, and the Bears have definitely come to play. They are not phoning this one in, not by any stretch of the imagination. I don't know if the Vikings even have a first down yet. I know that their first two drives were 3 and outs. Not sure maybe if I'm right about that or not. I'll have to check. But the defense has come to play. I think we've sacked Cousins. We've sacked him at least once so far. We've pressured him 2 or 3 more times as well. Defense has definitely come to play. They are set to make their mark. Unfortunately, the Rams are already up 14-0 on the 49ers. 2 turnovers on the first 2 offensive drives for the Niners make it 14 points for the Rams, and with that offense that we saw last week, 14. It might as well be 140-0 already in the first quarter. We might start sitting starters in the second quarter here. Anyway, on offense, the Bears, they came out running the football. I think they ran just about every single down on the opening drive with a big 42-yard run from Jordan Howard, the longest run of the year for the Bears on offense, period, and finished off the drive with a 6-yard run where Jordan Howard ran through I think it was Danielle Hunter to score the 6-yard touchdown run to go up 7-0. So a 3-and-out followed by us running the ball down their throats to go up 7-0. Definitely showing that we're living up to Matt Nagy's word about being in the game to play today. So, but as things progress in Los Angeles with the Rams stomping a mud hole in the 49ers, the game might start to fade as we move along. But right now the Bears are up 7-0, and we've got a decision. We may or may not be going for it on fourth down here.
First things first, we did not go for it on fourth down. We tried to do that musical chairs thing with them. I think it was it was on Sunday Night Football. I don't remember if it was the Rams or the Vikings that we did that thing with, where we lined the punt team out there, then the offense comes running on the field, and it was the one where Charles Leno plowed into the referee and knocked him over, so they had to stop it, and they couldn't run the play while the referee was collecting himself and all the rest of that stuff. But nonetheless, I mean, it would kind of piss me off, actually, because the Vikings left their defense on the field, and yet that referee would not get off of the football because he was allowing for the Vikings to substitute, even though their defense was already on the field. The guy wasn't paying attention to the personnel that was already out there. Minnesota didn't want to substitute because they already had who they wanted on the field. It was a short field, so it was most likely going to be a touchback type of situation. And the Bears then at the last second ran their offense onto the field and, ended up, because of that whole deal, not running the play and ended up punting again anyway. So a whole lot of nothing happened on that play, but I was just aggravated, as I'm sure Nagy was, about that referee standing over the football so the Bears couldn't run the play, even though the Vikings had their defense on the field on that play. So, but overall, in the first quarter, like I said in the reaction, we came to play in the first quarter and running the football down their throats. You remember talking to Chris Gates last week about what the Vikings need to do. They said put the ball in Trubisky's hands. Well, that plan went off the rails immediately. When you let Jordan Howard run for like 50 yards on the first drive, that's not going well. And they wanted to put the Bears in a position where Trubisky would have to beat them, and once again Trubisky being underestimated. I don't know if any of you guys heard my appearance on the Better Rivals podcast. Oscar Aparicio from when we had him on for the 49ers asked me to be on his show. Basically refused to give Mitch Trubisky any credit for the 25 of 29 day that he had against the 49ers because all of the throws were short. It was in like a 5 to 8 yard area, but never mind that we were usually in short yardage situations and that we did complete a 40-yard pass for a first down and a 26-yard pass to Taquan Mazzell coming out of the backfield and things like. Never mind that. He kept harping on the interception that got called back because of the penalty and the stupid decision that Mitch made on the pitch that became a fumble. He kept harping on that as opposed to going 25 of 29 with no official interceptions and throwing a touchdown pass and completing every throw that he wanted to, especially when it counted, like on those third down situations that the 49ers couldn't stop. So I was kind of aggravated. If you go back and listen to the show, I say that the performance that Trubisky had against the 49ers reminded me of the performance that Garoppolo had against the Bears last year. He didn't throw a touchdown pass. He had the one interception, but for the most part, Garoppolo was highly efficient. I think he was like 26 of 30 or something like that in that game against the Bears last year. So that's what reminded me, this guy in first year in the offense and so on and so forth. But 25 of 29, moved the chains when he needed to. The Bears had almost a full quarter time of position than the 49ers, but he kept going back to the mistakes that Trubisky made, and that's why Trubisky's not a good quarterback. Fine. And that's the way I said, like, okay, Yeah, like whatever. It's like we'll go round and round like this. I'm not going to do that. So anyway, Trubisky had another day like that. Instead of racking up 25 of 29, he was making the more important throws in this one. He was making throws a little bit further down the field, and there was a drive a little bit later on in the game that we'll talk about here in a second. But, the defense, they came out hungry. Nobody was phoning it in. We put our foot down on their throats, and the second quarter was pretty much the same story. I mean, we came to play, and Minnesota was scrambling from the beginning.
Knee-jerk reaction in the second quarter, the Bears and the Vikings, and the Bears just have it all over Minnesota right now. We added a second touchdown in the second quarter there. We thought we had it one play earlier. Taylor Gabriel with a crazy diving catch was initially called a touchdown, was ruled short at the 1-yard line. On the very next play, Jordan Howard pounds in his second touchdown of the game. However, Cody Parkey, talk about a guy who's making a case to be one and done in Chicago, bangs another one off of the upright, and he nearly missed the first extra point. So, I mean, I don't know what the hell's going on with this guy. We're indoors. There's no wind. There's no conditions. It's just you and the uprights, bro. Put it through. Jesus Christ, man. Anyway, we're up 13-0 right now. The Vikings have, I think, just one first down, maybe two. I was right. They had 0 in the first quarter. They have 1 or 2 first downs here in the second quarter. They have less than 60 yards offense, if that, right now. Jordan Howard himself has over 80 yards rushing in the first half and 2 touchdowns, so he's getting it done today. Trubisky's having another efficient day. Throwing the football. I think he's like 11 of 14 or something insane like that. So, and the defense is constantly up Cousins' butt, man. I mean, they're after him. They just showed at the end of their last drive, Cousins and Adam Thielen arguing on the sidelines about, you could read Cousins' lips telling him, I don't have time. And basically he was talking about Thielen, basically, dude, make the step and make your cut, and so I can throw you the ball, because I can't sit back there and wait for you to juke back and forth and then make the cuts. He's like, get up there, make the cut so I can throw the ball. And, that is a team that is desperate. They need to win this game. Philadelphia is beating the Redskins right now. So the Redskins win. Basically, with the way things are right now, the Eagles win and they're in because they're beating the Redskins. The Vikings are losing. This is a game they have to have. They're down 2 scores at home to the Bears. And with the Rams up 21-3 in Los Angeles, who comes out for the second half? We start with the football. Is Trubisky going to be the quarterback? Does he come out for another series or something like that? Is it Chase Daniel and company? We'll have to wait and see. But right now, the Bears are dominating the Vikings, which I think is hilarious. We've been a crappy road team pretty much all year long, and here we are facing probably our toughest road test of the year, going into Minnesota where we historically suck against a team that needs to win. We really don't. We're playing for the bye, but the LA Rams are taking care of that for us. We had something on the line that's gone now. So do we phone in the next 2 quarters? Do we put it on cruise control just to get through it? Since we're playing the wild card weekend, or at least the way it stands right now. But the Vikings, are a team that needs this win, and for the way that we've played on the road to look this good on the road in this game, I think is hilarious. But we're nursing a 13-3 lead here at the half, and we'll see how the second half goes. Who's going to come out and when the Bears start on offense again?
When I go back and listen to that, the first thing I think of is how I struggled with the name of Kirk Cousins in those knee-jerk reactions. You kept hearing me pausing when I say Cousins because I couldn't remember his first name, and I kept wanting to say Tarik Cousins, who, of course, was a cornerback for the Bears way back in the day. So that when I think Cousins, I think Terry, not Kirk, and it kept tripping me up. So that's you go back and listen to that first quarter knee-jerk reaction. I did it then, too, and I only refer to him as Cousins because I can't remember his first name, because when I think of a first name, the only one that comes to me is Terry, and I know that's not right. So that was just listening to that, kind of smiling to myself. But that little back and forth with Adam Thielen and Kirk Cousins, you knew the game was over at that point. Those guys are coming apart at the seams with each other. I mean, Cousins was adamant about the point that he was making with Adam Thielen. You even see when he's on the sideline, he's got that little Surface Pro in his hands. He runs from one end of the bench to the other to show him again on the surface, like, here, look at this. See, this is what I'm talking about, kind of thing. He was adamant about what needs to be done and the time that he does not have out there against that pass rush for the Bears. And the second quarter was more the same. Trubisky had that big throw to Taylor Gabriel. Like I said, initially ruled a touchdown, but they went back and replayed, and he was down by contact at the 1. Then you heard me talk about Cody Parkey. Like I said, definitely making a case to be one and done in Chicago. And even though we'd have to take a cap hit to move on from him, he's making a case for that to be necessary at this point. Thankfully, he's only a kicker, so the cap hit wouldn't be big. But, he was indoors. There's no wind. There's no anything. I mean, the crowd noise can't affect a kicker. You just look at the ball and kick the damn thing. I mean, come on. So, but in Matt Nagy's presser, he said that he didn't think it was Parkey's fault that he missed the kick. So I didn't hear anything in today's presser about him backing that up or talking about it at all. So I don't know what happened there or what he thinks happened or what he knows or what have you. But he said he didn't think it was Parkey's fault that he missed the kick. So maybe O'Donnell had laces in or something. I don't know. I don't know. It'll be a mystery. But nonetheless, the guy isn't as consistent. And someone made a tweet at me yesterday. I think it was Frozen Flame Kid, I think, or something like that. Sent me a tweet about his bold prediction is that if we lose in the playoffs, it'll probably be Parkey's fault. And basically, I'll second that. I think that if it comes down to him, the evidence shows that he's unreliable. He made those big kicks against Minnesota in that Sunday night game after his abysmal showing against the Lions the week before. He's answered the call, so we know that he can. But it was a no pressure situation against the Vikings. We were never in danger of losing that game. It was just a matter of adding to the lead that we already had. And in the high pressure situations when we needed kicks, he let us down. He did it against the Dolphins in that overtime game. We had a chance to win that one, and he missed it. Now, there were some other factors that went into it, but he had the leg. He just pushed it to the right. And, if it comes down to Parkey and a game-winning field goal, I'm going to be on my knees praying if and when that happens, because I don't really have any faith that he'll put it through. So, if it comes down to Parkey, then all hope might be lost. But that first half went about as well as it possibly could have. And, the domination that the Bears showed, like you heard me say, I think it's kind of funny that with the road schedule that we have and playing down to this inferior talent that we constantly run into on the road this season, for us to face our toughest road test of the season and come out and play pretty much one of our more complete games of the season, I thought, kind of tickled me in this situation. We really have nothing on the line, to be completely honest. Yeah, we want the bye, but we have to rely on someone else to help us out with that. And those dickhead 49ers decided not to show up against the Rams and got run off the field. It was 31-10 at halftime out there in L.A. They did not show up the way that they did to play against us last week. So piss on the 49ers. I'm glad we don't play them next year. So, but, we are basically, our hands were in somebody else's fate. We were the number 3 seed no matter what happened with us. So we really didn't have much of anything on the line other than divisional pride. And we had that in spades by the end of the first half. But as we go into the second half, the mystery was solved. The starters on both sides of the ball came out, and they were still playing like they wanted to win. However, it's difficult to win when you got to play against 2 opponents.
Knee-jerk reaction to the third quarter, the Bears and the Vikings. And for anyone who follows me on Twitter, you saw me tweet this just a few minutes ago, but it's hard to win a football game when you have to play two opponents at the same time. The third quarter has been Bears versus Vikings and referees. First, a bogus holding call on Kevin White. They called him for holding when it was actually the defender that dragged Kevin White to the ground on a play where Jordan Howard, I think it was a third down play actually, Jordan Howard caught a screen pass and ran it for about 20 yards, got a first down that would have put us at like the Viking 25-yard line or something like that. They called the holding penalty. Instead of 1st and 10 at the Viking 25, it's 3rd and 13 or something like that. The Bears can't convert, and we have to punt. Then the Vikings come down, and no less than at least four penalties that went against the Bears extended the drive for the Vikings just about every single time. The Vikings didn't really earn anything the referees didn't give them on that drive, and it ends with a touchdown pass to Stephon Diggs to make it a 13-10 game, and that's where we sit right now. The Bears are in the midst of the first offensive drive since that touchdown drive for the Vikings. We still have a 13-10 lead right now. The Bears just I think Jordan Howard got us about 4 yards on 1st and 10, so it's 2nd and 6, but we just got a first down. Just before that, Mitch was using his feet to get some yards for us. So hard to call that quarter. I mean, yes, the Bears starters all played into throughout the third quarter. It was the starting defense that gave up the touchdown, but it was the referees with the assist on that one. So that's a tough one to call as far as should we sit them, should we keep playing, and all the rest of that stuff. But it's a 13-10 game. I say we go ahead and finish the damn thing and, get the win, shut down Minnesota, kick their ass out of the playoffs because the Eagles are up big on Washington right now. So it's looking like Bears-Eagles in the wild card round next week if this holds. So they're coming back from commercial now. The Bears are up 3. We have the football, 2nd and 6. Let's see how this bad boy finishes out.
And the third quarter was kind of indicative of what it was going to take for Minnesota to win that game. They were going to need help because straight up they could not beat the Bears. It was obvious. When I said that the Vikings didn't earn anything that the referees didn't give them on that drive, they literally had about one play that they did on their own. It was a nice-looking run from Latavius Murray that got them inside, I believe, the 5 or the 10, one of the two. And that was the best play that the Vikings had on their own. Everything else was – there was a roughing the passer call that was bogus. They couldn't really figure out who it was. They called it on Khalil Mack, but it was closer to Roquan Smith, who also did not rough the passer. There was a couple of holding penalties or pass interference calls on Prince Amukamara, who somebody said was the most penalized player on the defense. You could have given me 100 guesses, and I never would have gotten that one right, but apparently that's the case. There was just like one bogus thing after another that kept extending the drive for Minnesota, giving them yards and field position they didn't earn, and that ended with a drive and a touchdown that put them within a field goal of tying us and a one-score game and what have you. And the whole quarter was like that. It just kind of went against the Bears, starting with that bogus holding call on Kevin White, where the defender dragged Kevin White to the ground, but somehow Kevin White is the one guilty of a holding call and what have you. It was you kind of felt that this is what it was going to take for Minnesota to win. The referees were going to have to get involved, and the referees got them within a field goal. And then in the fourth quarter, reality took hold, and the Bears sent the Vikings packing. We secured our 12th win of the season, a 5-1 division record, and a lot of momentum heading into the playoffs.
Knee-jerk reaction to the fourth quarter, the Bears and the Vikings, and it went back to an actual normal football game between two teams as opposed to the Bears having to battle the refs and the Vikings in the third quarter, and things righted themselves as they should. The Bears did get one call, but it was a legitimate call, actually. A defensive holding penalty on the Vikings, extending a drive there. The Bears were able to put a couple of more scores on the board. An impressive drive at the start of the fourth quarter, finishing the one that we started at the end of the third. running the ball down their throats. Jordan Howard over 100 yards again on the ground against the Vikings, who are supposed to be one of the league's best defending the run. Jordan Howard getting over 100 yards again. Tarik Cohen finishing off that drive in the fourth quarter, 4 yards straight up the gut. And then once again, Matt Nagy, with his creativity, sends out another wacky personnel grouping on goal line with Nick Witkowski, Bradley Sowell, and Prince Amukamara, who was running back and forth like a crazy man in motion before the play started, and Trubisky hits Witkowski for the 2-point conversion to go up 21-10. The Vikings go 4 and outs, turnover on downs, and the Bears add a field goal. Cody Parkey remembered to put the ball between the uprights to make it 24-10. And then our second teamers were absolutely teeing off on Kirk Cousins and the Vikings offense. I mean, it was a bad look for the Vikings. They still had 4.5 minutes, 5 minutes to go. They did have to score twice, which looked impossible the way that our defense and their offense had been playing. But we put the second teamers out there, and it did not matter. So, I mean, something like that could easily be construed as your team quitting on you. So I had a buddy of mine text me to see how much time does Zimmer have left on his contract, because the Vikings just laid a huge egg at home against a team they have notoriously been successful against at home. And not only that, but in the final minutes when it counted the most and when the Bears were basically yielding, the second teamers beat up on them, and it basically looked like the Vikings quit, like they knew the game was over and were no longer giving it a try. So who knows? Tomorrow's Black Monday. Everybody starts losing their job, and then the changes start being made to prepare for 2019 for everybody who doesn't live beyond today. The Bears do, and the Eagles won, so it's going to be Bears-Eagles next weekend at Soldier Field. Let's get it on, baby.
I was so excited at the end of the game. Can't you tell? I was pretty jacked up after the way the Bears polished off the Vikings. That drive that I was talking about, let's see here, 16 plays, 75 yards, 9 minutes, 5 seconds taken off the clock, capped off with Tarik Cohen running the football down their throats for the touchdown. So 3 rushing touchdowns out of the Bears on Sunday against what was supposed to be one of the best run defenses in football. And, like I said, the second teamers were teeing off. They played like the last 5-6 minutes of the fourth quarter. They were pounding Kirk Cousins into the ground. They couldn't run the football against us or get anything going as well. It was, like I said, it was a bad look. Not only did Minnesota lose this game at home in a must-win situation, but when the Bears are basically yielding, like I said, Minnesota couldn't improve upon their situation. The game was already over, and it kind of looked like they quit. And rumor has it today that Zimmer and Rick Spielman, the general manager of the Vikings, are safe. When I talked to Chris Gates yesterday, we were kind of messaging each other back and forth. He used some rather colorful language to describe his desire for us to beat the Eagles. I won't share that with you, but it was rather hilarious. But when I asked him, how secure he thought Zimmer's job was, he thinks Zimmer's going to be fine, but Rick Spielman getting let go might not be out of the realm of possibility, because for the last couple of off seasons, offensive line has been a worry for them, and he hasn't fixed it. And so maybe his lack of ability or desire or whatever to fix that, or to think he's got what he needs, could have cost him his job. He's like, that's more likely than Zimmer getting fired. And I read a report online today saying that Zimmer and Spielman were both safe and coming back for 2019. So we'll talk about the coaching changes here in a minute. There are going to be 8 open jobs going into 2019, or 8 jobs that need to be filled between now and the start of next season. But we'll talk about that here in a bit. I want to talk about that play with Nick Witkowski. That was another one of those situations where, he starts, Nagy is the he I'm referring to, using defensive players and what have you to put together some interesting personnel groupings down there for 2-point plays or goal line situation. Bradley Sowell was playing fullback a lot in the game on Sunday. We'll talk about him in a minute. Literally my favorite moment in the entire game was from Bradley Sowell. But that 2-point play, it was the moment that I realized, or the moment that I just kind of felt that this is the team to beat in the NFC. Because, and granted, I haven't seen New Orleans play much. I haven't seen as much of the Rams this year. But there is just something about a team that plays together the way that this team does that is extremely hard to beat. We've talked about all year about how resilient this team has been, how mentally tough they've been. The mistakes that they've made in the past would do something that would sink the team. This team, on the other hand, finds a way to bounce back, if not make that a mistake erase itself. We had 3 turnovers in that game against the Vikings. It didn't matter. We still dominated that game and won handily. Don't let the 25-20 final score fool you. The Bears kicked the crap out of Minnesota the first time around. Those 2 touchdown passes that Kirk Cousins threw came very, very late in the game. And it did come down to an onside kick, but the game had already been decided. That's basically what the point that I'm trying to make. And, the 3 interceptions that Mitch threw against the Rams, the Bears got 4 out of Jared Goff. And we kept bouncing back. My favorite play to talk about, obviously, Mitch throwing the interception on one play. The very next play, Kyle Fuller, who I said Kyle Long last week, Kyle Fuller comes back on the very next play. On the very next play, and intercepts and gets the ball back, therefore erasing the mistake that Mitch made on that throw. So, that's the kind of football team that we have. And on that 2-point play, you got Prince Amukamara back there. You got Bradley Sowell on the field as well. And like I said, Amukamara running back and forth, just crazy back and forth. Mitch fakes the pitch to him, rolls to the right, and hits Nick Witkowski for the 2-pointer, who had to jump up in the air and came down with it even though he took a hit. And as he runs to the sideline, the entire defense is over there to greet him. Everybody is over there. They're jumping up and down. They're patting him on the helmet. Like the entire team was waiting to embrace him when he came to the sidelines. And this is not a guy that is, he hasn't started a game since week 1. Roquan replaced him in the lineup week 2 against the Seahawks and hasn't looked back. So the contributions we've been getting from Nick Witkowski have been in maybe some kind of relief duty and mostly on special teams. And yet the team rallied around him in that moment that he made the catch and all that kind of stuff. And we're seeing it. That's not the only example of that. We're seeing it all over the place. Something that Nagy has done with this team isn't something that you can search for. The guy just has to have it. And this is the right situation for everyone involved. Matt Nagy may not have had the same success had he gone to Indianapolis, the other job that he was heavily coveted for. He may not have had the same effect on those guys that he had on this group of players. Club Dub, one of my absolute favorite things about this team, a borrowed idea from the Chicago Cubs. The Cubs do the same thing. When they win, the veterans throw a little party in the clubhouse after the win to celebrate their victory and such. Matt Nagy talked to Joe Madden, asked him if he could borrow the idea. Club Dub is born. It's the one thing that the players look forward to when the game is over. They go into the locker room, they dance and fool around for a couple of songs before Matt Nagy comes in and talks to the players and gets to the business of getting themselves home and getting ready for the next game. It's just little special things like that. Something about a group of guys that play together, that are in it for each other, is extremely hard to beat. We may not be the most talented team in the NFC, but I believe wholeheartedly we are the best, and we're going to be the toughest to beat because we play together like we do each and every Sunday. There isn't anything that we can't face as a team this year. And watching that moment where everyone was running to the sidelines, running to greet Witkowski as he came off the field when he made that catch, it almost sent shivers up my spine and gave me goosebumps to see it, because I knew I was seeing something special. This is a guy that has probably had to swallow his pride this year because he was a starter for us last year. He started the year as the starting inside linebacker next to Trevathan and had to step aside for the rookie and watch him have the success and everything as well. And he got to have a really cool moment yesterday against the Vikings, contributed to our victory in a way other than making a special teams tackle. I mean, aside from that, the last time we heard from Witkowski was when he forced and recovered a fumble against New England Week 7. They caused that fumble on the kickoff return, and he recovered it himself. So that's the last time we pretty much said the name Nick Witkowski out loud. But he had his moment yesterday. He made the most of it. And just another thing about why these guys love to play for Nagy. They go through a brick wall for him. And, that was one of those moments that really came through. So we get the win over the Vikings, move to 12-4, 5-1 in the division. That's 2 more wins in year 1 for Nagy than John Fox had in 3 years playing against the NFC North. God damn it, that's depressing, isn't it? This is what we've had to endure. That's what we had to endure to get to this. But Nagy is the goal at the end of the rainbow. I feel like we're going to have many more seasons like this as opposed to the ones we had to suffer through with John Fox in 2015, 16, and 17. Real quick, before we move on, Bradley Sowell and my favorite moment of the game yesterday. He was playing fullback, on a bunch of downs yesterday. Not Michael Burton, Bradley Sowell. And there was one play. The Bears ran play action. Mitch actually fakes the handoff to Bradley Sowell, who runs a seam route down the middle of legit runs a seam route. It wasn't like he ran and stopped at the line of scrimmage to help in pass protection. No. He ran through the line of scrimmage down the center of the field, and I didn't get to see whether or not he turned his head back to see if he was open, maybe throw a hand up to Mitch or something like that. I actually don't even remember how the play ended. I don't know. I think maybe he threw it to Trey Burton or Gabriel or whatever. It doesn't matter. Okay, Bradley Sowell legit ran about a 30-yard seam route down the middle of the field yesterday. I laughed my ass off when I saw that because here's this big, gigantic man running down the middle of the field, and it was almost like, does anybody else see this right now? This is so crazy. He's just running down the middle of the field like a receiver. He was running a legit seam route down the middle of the field. Like, that's the way the play was designed. It was so awesome. So that was literally my favorite moment in the entire game, and nothing happened, but it was so great to see number 79 rumbling down the middle of the field, running a legit seam route down the center of the field. It was so great. So great. My favorite moment of the game yesterday. So that is going to do it. Our beloved win 24-10. We send the Vikings home packing. We shut them down, eliminate them from the NFC playoff picture. Therefore, we are the lone NFC North representative in the playoffs this season, waiting for the Philadelphia Eagles to come to Soldier Field at 3 on Sunday afternoon. And I'm looking forward to it. Everyone wants to talk about how hot the Eagles are, defending world champs, and Nick Foles doing his magic again, blah, 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 blah. Well, we won 9 of 10. We have the best defense. We have the home field advantage. And I like my quarterback a lot pretty much too. So deal with that. That's what you have coming and waiting for you this Sunday against the Bears. So anyway, what do you say we go ahead and wrap things up with everybody's favorite segment, Bear Up, Bear Down. Promo code BEARS25. Get in on the action with bowl season as it winds down. The Big Six bowl games are happening tomorrow on New Year's Day, so you want to get in on those. And the BCS title game with Alabama and Clemson is next, Thursday? What is the 7th? Who cares? Anyway, Monday. I think it's a Monday. Yeah, it's a week from today on Monday. So, yeah, go ahead and get in on the action. BEARS25, the promo code for MyBookie. So before we get to Bear Up and Bear Down, there's something I forgot to mention, was Anthony Miller. Anthony Miller went down with a shoulder injury yesterday, and it was really kind of freaky what happened. It was a non-contact injury. He didn't hit anybody or anything like that. He caught I think he was running a jet sweep, if I'm not mistaken, or at the very least a crossing route. I don't remember the play very well, to be honest with you. But he's running across the field. He's got the football in his hands, and then all of a sudden you just see like his energy was zapped just like that. He goes down to the ground, and then when you see the replay, it just kind of looked like all of a sudden something hit him because he lost the ball. The ball comes out, he falls on top of it, it rolls out of bounds, no harm, no foul, and then he's laying there on the ground, and he doesn't want to get up. And first thought that I had was some kind of knee injury. Did he blow an ACL? Did he, pop a quad? Did he pull a hammy? Something like that. And then when he stands up, he's leaning to his left. It was the shoulder. And like I said, a non-contact injury, when you go back and you look at it, he doesn't touch anybody. He doesn't have any contact with anyone until he gets to the sideline. And I had a buddy in high school, one of my closest friends growing up. His name is Jason Greer, and he dislocated his shoulder. I forget how he did that. I wasn't there. I know that. We spent a lot of time together. I was not there for that. But he dislocated his shoulder at one point. And when we were in high school, he didn't have surgery on it right away. And when we were in high school, he went swimming at the YMCA. And just the motion, of swimming, just doing a regular, swimming stroke, his shoulder popped out. And that's the first thing that I thought of when Anthony Miller went down with that shoulder injury, was that he just turned the shoulder in just the right way for it to pop right out of the socket the way that it is. So he probably going to have some off-season shoulder surgery to fix that, because he can't keep missing games because his shoulder won't stay in place. He's probably going to have some kind of surgery in the offseason to get that repaired. I think, when Matt Nagy addressed the injuries, he was very optimistic about getting everybody back on Sunday against the Eagles. Eddie Jackson, Aaron Lynch, Allen Robinson, who did not play yesterday with a rib injury that he suffered against the 49ers. And I think he believes Anthony Miller should be fine for Sunday. Popped the shoulder back in place, so he's good to go. I think it was his video that I was watching of Club Dub last night, so obviously he's okay. And I think the Bears just didn't want to risk it by putting him back in the game yesterday. So I do believe he'll be fine and he'll play on Sunday against the Eagles. And according to Nagy, he expects Aaron Lynch and Eddie Jackson to be back along with Allen Robinson. So we'll be back to full strength on Sunday when the Eagles come to town. So Bear up and bear down for the Week 17 review. And I only have one bear down. It's Cody Parkey. He made a field goal at the end of the game. Fantastic. He made one extra point, but missed the second one. And there's pretty much the only negative part of the game, aside from, Gabriel and Anthony Miller leaving the game with injuries. Anthony Miller with his shoulder, Taylor Gabriel with a rib thing, but both are minor, and they'll both be fine, according to Coach Nagy. So no harm, no foul there. Just they got banged up. They're not putting them back in the game. But Cody Parkey, kicking is an important part of the game, as much as nobody wants to admit it. It is very, very important, and we might need you, and you got to do better than this, bro. You got to do it. So bear down, Cody Parkey. Bear up, Mitch Trubisky. Another solid performance at the helm for our beloved Chicago Bears. Let me see if I can pull up the stats here real quick. Box score, Mitch Trubisky, 18 of 26, only 163 yards, but no interceptions. He was not sacked. His feet did the magic on that one. I think the Vikings had him dead to rights a couple of times, but he managed to scramble and get away. No sacks, no picks, an 85.9 quarterback rating yesterday. He made the throws, especially on that 16-play drive there that put the game away, essentially. There was one throw in particular on like 3rd and 8. He threw a laser to Javon Wims, turned around. Javon made a great catch yesterday to hang on to the football and get the first down, extend the drive, move the chains, and the Bears just kind of imposed their will and put the ball in the end zone to put the game out of reach for him. Mitch made the throws. He made the plays when he needed to make them yesterday, and that's all we need Mitch to do. With the defense that we have, he doesn't have to be Patrick Mahomes and throw for 50 touchdowns and 5,000 yards or anything like that. We'll turn the ball over to Jordan Howard, who ran for 21 carries and 109 yards and 2 touchdowns yesterday. And even though Tarik Cohen only had 24 yards rushing, he got it on 5 carries. So he had 4.8 yards a carry and a touchdown yesterday. The Bears were running the ball up Minnesota's butt yesterday. The person who had the worst day running the ball was Benny Cunningham, and he had 6 carries for 13 yards. So 2 yards a carry, big deal. But, it just he had an efficient day. 18 of 26 is a good day throwing the football. No picks, no interceptions, no fumbles, no turnovers, no mistakes. He had a good day. So bear up, Mitch Trubisky. Bear up, Matt Nagy. Running the football, giving it to Jordan Howard, the creativity of the 2-point play. And just like I talked about before, the guy's just done something. He's sold the team on a bill of goods, and the team is all in on it. Club dub, the defensive players. I heard, I think it was Akeem Hicks or somebody that said anytime Nagy comes walking into a defensive meeting, they all perk up because they're wondering, okay, whose turn is it now to get in on some kind of wacky formation, at the goal line or something like that? Do we get to see Khalil Mack line up as a wide receiver or something like that, or what have you? Like whose turn is it this time? These guys are excited to see Coach Nagy come walking in to the defensive meeting room because it usually means something awesome is going to happen. And just want to bear up to yesterday for his performance. He made the right call. I did not envy the decision that Nagy had to make yesterday. Either we go in and we try to win the game. He didn't scoreboard watch. He learned at the very first time he learned what was going on in Los Angeles was at halftime when Aaron Andrews, the sideline reporter, sexy, told him what the score was in Los Angeles, how the 49ers were basically crapping the bed for us out there, that they were giving us no help. We're the 3 seed, basically, is what's happening. He went in there to win. He had the players buy in on the idea of winning and the starters going into the second half and playing into the fourth quarter yesterday. And, the guys were on board. Nobody was like, man, what are we still doing in the game? Nobody had that attitude. They went out there. They played hard. They dominated the Vikings and got the win, 12th win of the season. Outstanding, man. God damn. 7-1 in the second half of the season. Just an outstanding job for the Bears. 5-0 against the division as well. That was one thing that stood out when the schedule came out, was in 5 of our last 8 games were in the division, and we won them all. We won them all. God damn, that's awesome. So bear up to Coach Nagy and, just getting it done overall. And the decisions that he made yesterday worked out just fine. Bear up Jordan Howard. Like I said, 21 carries, 109 yards, over 5 yards a carry, 2 touchdowns, the longest run of the year at 42 yards to kick off the game, essentially kind of hitting his stride at just the right time. I think he only ended up being, where at one point it looked like 1,000 yards was a pipe dream. I think he only finished about 60 yards short of 1,000 yards on the year. So, I mean, if he could have, maybe if he could have gained 5 yards a game more than he did, he would have had 1,000 yards this year. That's how crazy it is. But the finish that he had this year, kind of getting ramped up at the right time, getting him rolling at the end of the year. If this is also part of Matt Nagy's diabolical plan to get Jordan Howard going at this time of year, it's another genius move on his part. My buddy Ryan Simmons wants me to believe that that's what Nagy has been doing. He's been saving Jordan Howard for December and the playoff run. And right now I can't argue with the theory because it looks like that's exactly what Nagy is doing. Bear up Nick Witkowski, having his moments, making the most of it, and also, apparently he's very popular with his teammates because he had a whole truckload of dudes waiting for him when he got to the sideline to celebrate his 2-point catch yesterday. Bear up to Bradley Sowell for my favorite moment in the game yesterday. His big ass rumbling down the middle of the field, legit running like a seam route. I totally see him coming to the sideline and be like, Mitch, I was open, dude. What's up, man? What happened? I was open, something like that. So that was just so great. And then finally, I could list them all, but we don't want to be here all night. Bear up to the defense. I mean, everybody who played yesterday, even our second teamers and Isaiah Irving, who got a sack yesterday. Kevin Tolliver played well when he came out onto the field. I do believe Nick Witkowski got some defensive snaps in yesterday. You saw Iggy Yoel Iyebuniwe out there making some tackles late in the fourth quarter. We put our second teamers in there, and they dominated just as well as our first teamers did, which would kind of make some people think, well, maybe we could have won it without the starters. Who knows? Who knows, man? We'll forever have to wonder. But when they got their chance to go out there, they continued the beating that the first teamers were putting on the Vikings, and that was fun to see. But the defense in general, just an outstanding job yesterday, shutting down the Vikings, a team that had a lot of success running the football yesterday or this year, had, basically nothing on the ground. Dalvin Cook had 39 yards on 11 carries. Latavius Murray had that 20-yard run, that one play on that touchdown drive, but finished with 18 on the day. So he had 2 carries for 18 yards, so he lost yardage on the second time that he touched the ball. The Vikings finished the game with 63 yards rushing yesterday, 63. And it helped the Bears. It helped propel the Bears to be the number 1 rushing defense in football yesterday, and the number 1 scoring defense by only allowing 10 points. So we have the best defense in football. That's how you determine that. We are the number 1 scoring defense, the number 1 run defense in football, and we're going to stomp a mud hole in Philly's ass on Sunday, and I can't wait to see it. So just to bear up to Vic Fangio for leading that defense. Please don't leave us, Vic. I know that there's going to be some jobs out there that are going to try to entice you. 8 jobs that are open, and we'll go ahead and talk about that real quick to finish things up. We got Cleveland and Green Bay, who made their firings midseason. Miami let go of Adam Gase today. Cincinnati finally fired Marvin Lewis. They should have done that at least 3 years ago. At least 3 years ago, if not sooner. Denver fired Vance Johnson today. I think his last name is Johnson. I don't know. Vance something. Last name is, I don't remember. It doesn't matter. He's fired, so off he goes into the great abyss once again. We mentioned Miami and Denver because those are the 2 teams that have already made requests to interview Vic Fangio. Arizona fired Steve Wilkes after only 1 year. I am not a fan of that move at all. You hire a guy, he's only a coach for 1 year with a rookie quarterback that played since week 3. Basically, he started his rookie season at week 3 when he played against the Bears and was the starter for the rest of the year. And you went 3-13 with a rookie quarterback and dealt with a lot of injuries too. So it didn't seem right. There had something that had to be going very, very wrong with that team for them to pull a trigger after 1 year. I didn't like the move at all. Did not like the move. Not a fan of that at all. So you got Cincinnati, Cleveland, Miami, Denver, Arizona. The Jets, Todd Bowles was let go earlier today. Who else am I missing? And there are a couple more out there. So, but I mentioned Todd Bowles because I've been talking back and forth with friends and my dad about Vic Fangio possibly interviewing for some of these jobs, and I've mentioned that if God forbid Vic Fangio is enticed enough to walk away and take a shot at being a head man, Todd Bowles is the guy that I want to replace him. I just had a gut feeling, a bad feeling about Todd Bowles as a head coach. I thought he was an awesome defensive coordinator. I thought he could be the new era Wade Phillips, basically. Like, this would be a guy that, he'll go back and he'll be a defensive coordinator and he'll be successful because he's great at it. He built the defense from nothing in Arizona when he was the DC under Bruce Arians, and built a reputation to get a shot at being a head coach. It didn't work out with the Jets. He's going to probably be a defensive coordinator at the very least. He'll be a defensive coordinator somewhere in 2019. He's the guy that I want the Bears to get if Vic Fangio goes. I want Todd Bowles to be the defensive coordinator. I think the defense could be just as good, if not better, because I think Bowles is a bit more aggressive than Fangio likes to be. But, it could be very interesting if we could get Todd Bowles to take over if Fangio takes a head coaching job. So it's going to be an interesting winter. If Fangio takes the job, I hope the Bears can get Bowles to replace him. But hopefully hopefully Fangio can't walk away. The Bears gave him a hefty raise from what I hear to come back and lead the defense. He kept his entire coaching staff. He has full autonomy as far as the defense is concerned. He has a Hall of Fame player in Khalil Mack to play there. The Bears went out and got him Roquan Smith. He's got Akeem Hicks and Eddie Goldman. He's been nurturing these guys for the last few years. Can he walk away? Is the enticement, the pull of being a head coach, being able to check that box on your resume, is it that important that he would go to one of these situations, walk away and go to Miami or Denver, where it's a below average roster for both teams? Would he go out there and do it? Is that enticement? Is it enough? And when I was talking to my dad about it, I mentioned to him that, it's going to be, I really feel like Fangio's got a hell of a lot of leverage right now. It's going to be more about those teams convincing Fangio to take the job than it will about Fangio trying to convince them to make him their head coach. I really think like that's the spot that Fangio is in right now. It's like, number one, look at everything that I have in Chicago. I have Khalil Mack. I have one of the top secondaries. I have Eddie Jackson. I have Roquan Smith, Danny Trevathan, Eddie Goldman, Akeem Hicks. Leonard Floyd is blossoming, thank God. And, I've got a head coach who lets me do whatever the hell I want on the defensive side. He trusts me to run my unit. Convince me that I should walk away from that. Convince me. You want me to come and lead your crappy team. You can't figure out who you want to be quarterback, Denver. You can't. You want me to lead this team that has no quarterback in Miami because they're probably not bringing Tannehill back. It's like, really, you want me to build this thing from the ground up when I just spent the last 4 years doing that in Chicago and now it's finally paying dividends? I really do feel like it's going to be more about him interviewing them than them interviewing him. They're going to have to sell him on going to Denver or Miami or any other team that requests an interview than it will be Fangio trying to convince them that he's the right guy for the job. So Fangio's got a lot of incentive, and hopefully that whatever offer is made, that Fangio will come back to Chicago to see if the Bears can match it to keep him in Chicago and leading our defense for a while. So that's my 2 cents on the other jobs. So on the head coaching jobs and the ones that Fangio might be up for. So anyway, that will do it for the Week 17 review of the Bears Talk Underground. We will be back on Thursday for the wild card preview. Good God, we're actually talking about playoff games when one of Armchair All-American's very own, Matt Martellucci from the Armchair Bird Gang, will be on the show to help me preview this game between the Bears and the Eagles. Looking forward to that, our first crossover Armchair show. So we'll be back on Thursday with that. And until then, my name is Larry D, and this has been the Bears Talk Underground.